everybody, and welcome to Flutings with Paula. Today we're going to be talking about playing between the notes. What is that? What is playing between the notes? Claude Debussy said, music is the space between the notes. It's that magical place where God lives, or where angels live, or where the intent of the composer lives. That's how I see it, really. This expression I first heard when I was a student with Julius Baker at the Juilliard School, and we used to, in those days, we would all troop down to his apartment. He was living on West 73rd Street. I remember there was a couch along the wall, and there was a table where he would sit, and then there was the kitchen in the back where his wife Ruth would make the most marvelous spaghetti dinners for all of us when we would go there for parties, and it was a kind of a magical place. And so we would go down there for our lessons, and one day he said, there's a very special guest coming today to listen to all of you. And it was his teacher, William Kincaid, a man I had worshipped ever since I was a very young flute player, and whose recordings I had studied, and I had actually heard him play with the Philadelphia Orchestra as a member of the orchestra, that marvelous aristocratic head, white hair. So I was amazed that I was going to actually be playing for him. We all were. We were kind of lined up for him to show off. I guess he wanted to show off his students. So I thought, what should I play? The Dutilleux Sonatine, because that was a piece that was a total favorite of mine then, and it still is. I thought, okay, I'll play it, and I asked my dear friend Samuel Sanders, pianist with whom I was playing all the time in those days. We were both very young and in school. So we went in there, and there he was. William Kincaid was sitting on the couch, and the piano was kind of over here, and I thought, okay, I'm going to make every note a jewel. I'm going to make every note beautiful. This beautiful piece. Every note is going to sparkle and shine. And so that's what I was hoping to do. So Sam and I did that. We played through the Dutilleux Sonatine, and he was listening very carefully. And then he looked at me intently and he said, play between the notes. And I thought, wow, play between the notes. I wonder what that means, but what a marvelous idea. He was totally right, because what I was doing was playing each note as beautifully as I could. It was like a string of pearls or gems of some kind. But I was missing the connective tissue, the silken thread that united all of those notes, that showed Dutilleux's intent, because that's a very choreographed piece. We'll talk more about this later, and its relation to dance, that particular piece, very strong. But you need the gestures, the large gestures, and they need to be connected. And where there's a space, a leap, that silence, it should be full of music, because the notes have their own lives, and they decide to go backwards, or they decide to go forwards. They're either coming somewhere or going somewhere. And so that's where I first kind of thought, I'd like to start thinking about how I play in this way. That a note has an intent, and it goes on. If you think about a great piece of music like Claude Debussy's Syrinx, all right, so we are the god Pan playing our flutes in the middle of the forest. We are, in a sense, playing a written-out improvisation, because that's what Debussy, although he was very intense about his dictum, to play what he wrote and not what we think he wrote, to follow exactly what he wrote, including the pauses, because the pauses are written there too. Wait, just a minute. Go ahead. Just a little bit. He's very clear. But the pauses, the weights between the notes, are as powerful as the notes themselves in that piece. I think we should have a whole episode about Syrinx. Yeah, gotta do that. And another one, a famous one, is the Brahms Fourth, the great flute moment in the middle of the last movement, which is based on his idea of a chaconne passacaglia, the bass, the theme which is played in the opening bars of that last movement, The bee bum 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 bum. Right? I'm singing in the wrong key, I'm sure. Singing is not even the word for what I was doing. So when the flute comes in, it's the most amazing moment, isn't it? That the orchestra calms down slowly. And the flute is leading the way, and then the flute is left alone with the orchestra commenting in the background. And what is the flute playing? A variation over this theme. And to hear the theme underneath, and to play the pauses, the places between the notes. So we play dee-da-da-da-da. That pause should not be quiet. It's not a kind of a pause that we hear in digital recordings. I'm an analog person. I come from the analog generation where the ambience of the room was there. In the digital way of recording, very often there's total silence between notes. But no, this silence is alive and continuing on. That breath, full of life. And if you play that way, then it's not that it has to be a great dramatic gesture in the silences. No, it's that pulling in of the spirit, assembling of the spirit, and acknowledging each note's life and its decision to go on to the next. So that's how I think I'm speaking now of us as classical musicians. We're going to talk in the next little bit about jazz musicians and how they regard this same process, because it's different really from what we do, because we are interpretive artists. We are playing music which someone else has written. There's some improvisation in what we do, but mostly our improvisation is the way we bring the spirit of the composer alive. And so playing between the notes is our way of doing that. There was a great pianist whose name was Arthur Schnabel. I don't know how many of you will know that name, but if you can, see if you can listen to some of his playing. He was a great free spirit and a great intellectual, so he combined those two things in his playing. And he once said, "The notes I handle no better than most pianists, but the pauses between the notes, that is where the art resides." So I'll leave you with that one to think about a little bit, and we're on to the next.